In this video, I want to explain how I structure my programs, no matter the split, so you can start doing your own personal training templates. My biggest influence on this topic was John Meadows. I use most of his principles as well as Ball Omni-Man, that was also inspired by Meadows, and some things from NH. I will link in the description what I think are the most important videos of each one, where they explain the system I also use. First, there's different phases, tiers, levels, categories, whatever you want to call it, to organize each day and each exercise within the day. But there's also some exception for these rules that I will explain later as I cover each point or at the very end. I will also show you how to apply each one of these categories depending on the split you're following. To start your workout, I like to do a big, heavier compound movement. If possible, this should be a bilateral movement, so you can use more total weight. That can be a barbell movement, a heavy pull, a heavy squat. And when I say a barbell movement, I mean any type of barbell. Straight bar, cambered bar, SSB, trap bar, it doesn't matter. But I use an exercise where my whole body works together. In this phase, rep ranges can go from 3 to 10 reps, depending on the lift. And if you have an A and B day, use a different rep range within that 3 to 10 range for your main lift. For example, for upper A, you can do incline press from 5 to 8, and upper B, cambered bar press from 6 to 10. Or for a lower body day, you can do lower A, squats from 4 to 6, and lower B, front squat or SSB squat from 6 to 10. In this particular phase, there's not a special emphasis on getting neither a good stretch or a good contraction. That doesn't mean it cannot include any of these, but it's not the main goal. The main goal is to accumulate the most amount of quality tonnage and prepare the body for the rest of the session. Intensity, meaning proximity to failure for this phase, should go from 2 to 0 reps in shy from mechanical failure. This is not the time to do intensity techniques or go beyond failure, or even fail. You don't want to reach actual failure in this phase. The further you want to push intensity here is 0 reps in reserve before losing form, so mechanical failure. You can also have multiple tier 1 exercise depending on your split. You can have an upper day with a bench, a pull-up, and a vertical press, and make it all follow these rules for tier 1. Okay, so now we already done our main lift. What we're going to do next is pump the muscle and push intensity a little bit more. The exercise for this phase should be similar to the previous one, but here we will use a moderate to high rep range with a higher intensity, and we will choose an exercise with a good squeeze, something that allows you to fully contract the muscle. For example, after barbell bench of phase 1, you can do a dumbbell press, a ring push-up, a machine press. If you start with a heavy pull, like a weighted pull-up, then you can do a row, for example, or free weights with machine, even inverted rows. Here the rep range can go from 8 to 15, and also if the exercise allows it, you can use partial reps, drop sets, mechanical drop sets, cheat reps. Here you really want to push intensity and punish the muscle as much as you can and get that pump. And just like the tier 1, you can have multiple exercises from this tier for different muscles. This applies for every tier. Depending on your split, you will have different exercise in the same tier. The stretch. This is your last exercise of the day, which will also be the lighter one. In this phase, you want to pick an exercise with a good stretch, something that's not limited by the implement you're using, like the barbell of the floor. It should be limited only by your own mobility. You want a big range of motion and a big stretch. In this phase, you can hit actual failure if you want, as long as the exercise allows you to fail safely. Intensity techniques are not needed here but they can be added occasionally if you want. Some examples here would be dumbbell flies, deficit push-ups, pullover, etc. These are the general guidelines. Now let's see when they not apply or are applied different. In the tier 1, I said that the first exercise should be a heavy compound. And yes, this is a good general rule, but this doesn't need to be always the case. For example, on a lower body day, you will theoretically start with a heavy squat or a heavy hinge. That's what the rule says. But you can also start with an isolation exercise. So before doing your heavy squat, you can do leg curls, for example. That's a valid option. It will warm up your knees as well as the antagonist muscle that would give you support on your main lift. And it has the potential to prepare your body even better than just doing squats. And the same can be applied for bench. You can do some kind of face pull before or even in between warm-up sets, for example, for the same reason, to warm up your joints and prepare them for your heavy compound. Another good reason to start with isolation is if you want to prioritize a particular muscle. Like, for example, if you don't have a proper arm day and you want to prioritize arms, you can do them first on your upper days. That's also a very valid option. There are some cases that I wouldn't necessarily call exceptions to the rules, but it's a different way to apply them. You've probably noticed that there's exercises that can belong to different of these phases or tiers, like ring push-ups or dumbbell press, for example, are both compound movements with a good squeeze, but also good stretch. Pull-ups can also fit in a lot of these categories or tiers. The barrel press can be done as a tier 2 exercise or a tier 3 as well. The RDL is a heavy compound with a good stretch, no squeeze. So here you gotta use common sense and organize them in order of importance, order of fatigue, and individual priorities. Another problem, quote unquote, you may have noticed is that there's three separate phases or tiers. So one question you might have is, what if in my split I'm not doing three different exercises for one muscle in one single session? This can be easily solved using what I just talked about how there's exercises that can fit in multiple tiers. So for example, if you're not doing three different chest exercises in one day, instead of skipping a phase or a tier, you will pick one of these exercises that can be organized anywhere that fit in any tier. Like you do your phase 1 heavy bench and then you can do a ring push-up or a barrel press that both have a good squeeze, will pump the muscle, are safer to push intensity, but they also have a good stretch. Or you can do weighted chin-ups as your phase 1 exercise, and you can do bodyweight pull-ups as your pump and stretch exercise. This will make it easier to accommodate these phases into different splits, and you can adjust them to your own needs. Always start with the heaviest exercise. If you're doing bench and dumbbell bench, that are both compounds, start with the barbell exercise. Another common question people have about how to apply this is how you apply this to arms, because it's rare that you will do three biceps exercises or three triceps exercises in a single workout. So unless you're a piano enjoyer, depending on your split, you can use the three tiers like this. First, your tier 1, your strengths, will be something with a bias either to triceps or biceps, like a dip or floor press for triceps or a chin-ups for biceps. Then your tier 2, the pump, can be a press down and a standard curl. And the tier 3, the stretch and extension and incline curl or pelican curl. If you're doing arms on an upper day and you're only doing one exercise for each, then choose the exercise you like the most. You don't need these 3 tiers for arms. And if you're doing a split like GVS that does arms the day after upper day, then you probably will not be able to do the tier 1. So only do tier 2 and tier 3. That's all I have for today. Let me know what you think. If you have any doubt or question, let me know and I answer in the comments. And thanks for watching.